I also want to say that I love you.
I love you too.
And I'm so glad that you're doing this.
Of course. Well, it's like you've asked me before and I've never had the opportunity to, but thank you for picking me up that day and everything that you did. And I wouldn't be here. I mean, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for you for picking me up that day. I might have ended up back here at some point. You never know how it goes, but I think my life was about to take a very dark turn. And
I would agree with that.
yeah. So thank you.
Well, it's also, I'm glad you're sharing this because like you're human and it's so easy for people to be like, wait, why are you still with him? Why are you dealing with this? You should fucking leave. And it's like, well, no, but he's like this wonderful person and most addicts are. And when you hear the backstory and you understand all the context, I'm not saying you should stay with someone that uses for that long. I'm not necessarily saying that. Like, I think it's case by case.
Yeah.
But it also helps explain a little bit more, you know? So
yeah. And also things change and as I go into it. So
right.
I think it was easier for my ex to leave because I wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything.
You weren't doing
I was
anything.
fucking useless. I was a mooch. I was stealing. I had no prospects. There was no like, oh, like if he pulls his life together, like our lives are gonna be good. It was more like this fucking dude's useless.
Because you were a really good boyfriend to me, like the cameo ring and some of the stories I want to tell. Were you like that with her or no?
I think I was.
But just not all the other stuff. Like there didn't appear to be a future with you.
It was just different. I mean, I was on Suboxone and Adderall.
Yeah.
I was that part of my life. So like.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I think I would like to think I was a good person, but I was probably more selfish. I wasn't as driven. I was probably just cared more about working out,
right,
being in shape and all that stuff.
Right.
Like, I was working at like Pete's Coffee and I worked at a restaurant. Like,
yeah,
there was no real upside. There was no upside to me, basically.
Okay.
No very surface. There was no very. I had no upside.
Okay.
It wasn't like, yeah, our lives are going to be great.
Okay.
And I don't disagree. You know,
right.
I'd feel the same way too.
Right.
So
you go to. You end up at SCRC, which is.
So I go to a 30-day treatment. I get off of drugs. No, I did a Suboxone taper.
Yeah.
So like I left. I finished there clean.
Yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah.
I had another spiritual experience when I was in there. They had like quadruple dosed me on antidepressants.
Oh.
One day.
Accidentally?
And, yeah. Just whatever it was. I don't know what happened, but I was still kicking from the Suboxone. I mean, at this point, it was like a 300 or 400 milligram a day oxycodone habit for months and months and months and months and months. So like Suboxone helped, but you're still sick after 5 days. Like it doesn't just stop after 5 days. It had like quadruple dosed me on antidepressants and I felt like I was having a heart attack and blah, blah, blah. And again, it was a time where I prayed. And I remember sitting there. And I don't know, I prayed to my grandma because my grandma got me out of a lot of stuff. And she was kind of like the reason like our family is who they are.
Yeah.
I was like, please just fucking help. And I woke up the next day and I was 100% non-detoxing. Like
not sick from the Suboxone or anything?
Nothing.
Oh, wow.
The next morning. It was probably the first time since I was my knee surgery to where I had clarity. Like some sort of clarity. The mental health stuff comes back big time. So like all like the paranoia and stress and all that stuff. But that is much more manageable for me than detoxing.
Right.
Detoxing for me is the worst.
Yeah.
So then I go to this all male treatment center and
it like changes your life, really.
San Diego, and it changed my life.
No.
You changed my life, my little boy.
Hey. Nothing even happened, man.
Come here, my yell bub.
Why don't you go sit with Daddy?
Yeah. Okay. You stressed it? Hey, you changed it, my yell bubs. So it changed my life.
Yeah.
It was the first time I had tried to build, or was in the process of building relationships with people in sobriety. I had actually gotten a sponsor. And we were having fun. I mean, we had the time of our lives. Like we were like a bunch of idiots. Like
this is when Skylar met two of the men that were in our wedding.
Yeah.
Stevie, who I've talked about on the show before, probably, and Zach, who's been on the show. Actually, I've interviewed Zach before.
Yeah.
And he met those two idiots. And the three of them had like the best time ever. And the other guys too.
Yeah.
I forget their names.
It was like a fraternity.
Yes.
Like it was a total frat house.
Yeah.
But it was like a sober frat house. Like it was just fun.
I think Stevie and Zach in particular too brought such a lightness to you. Like they would make you laugh still.
Yeah.
They make you laugh so much. And I feel like any of like the seriousness or the sadness that's with you gets very lightened just by their presence.
Totally.
You know?
Agree.
Let me ask you this though. What made you get a sponsor and try this time? Because I know the things that happened at SCRC changed your life, but why were you even open to them? Because the programs you went to before probably had all the same shit. They probably had a couple of funny guys and they would have told you to get a sponsor, but you didn't. What was different this time?
So I'd never been to an AA oriented treatment.
Oh, I didn't know that. This is the first 12 step you went to.
Two very nice treatments that were just much more cushy.
Oh, okay.
Wealthy family, just spin dry.
Okay.
The behavior modification was like a
awful
change the way that you go about life.
Yeah.
It was not AA oriented. It was behavior oriented. And then the other places were just come and go.
Okay.
I think the thing that changed my outlook on sobriety was seeing people like Aiden and EJ, because they were young guys who were sober, who were enjoying life.
Okay.
And this is what got them that.
Okay.
And it was
you recognized that.
Yeah. And I think I'm drawn to people that have stuff that I want. And in that moment, what I wanted was help. I needed a change or I wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And I was drawn to the fact that these guys were fucking happy every day, were sober. And like, if that is what got them there, I was willing to try.
Okay.
And we had been brought into AA meetings at the 30-day detox.
Okay.
So I got a sponsor. I picked somebody that appealed to me. He had a truck. He had a really nice truck. He looked like he had his life together. He was younger. He'd been to prison. Like he had, like came from a good family, like kind of similar situation. And I went through the steps. I was honest, talked about everything.
It's also the first time you talked about the stuff in San Francisco, right? And did EMDR. And you actually told Zach or Stevie or somebody, and you had never talked about it.
I brought it up, yeah.
Right, okay.
I never really went into detail about it, but I brought it up. But yeah, so EMDR helped a lot. These cycles of using and like getting put in these situations for years on end is trauma.
Yeah.
And I've learned to internalize and lock in the trauma so that I can keep moving forward. But that's, I think, part of the reason why I would like relapse, or like why I would never fully like understand why I feel a certain way.
Okay.
So I was working steps, sponsoring people. I got a sobriety job. I was working overnights at a gas station, like, and I could care less. Like I was like making like $9 an hour, $10 an hour, whatever it was. But it was fine. Like I had no shame in what I was doing. And I think before, when I was living in Marin, I felt ashamed that like I worked at Pete's Coffee, or like I worked at Domino's for a period of time before I stole from them and relapsed. But yeah, I felt ashamed that this is what my life had become. And I didn't care. When I was down here, I was like, whatever. Like nobody knows who I am. Like nobody knows who I am. I'm not important. Like
you were also immersed in a group of people that were also in the intro phase back to life, and I feel like that's the benefit of residential treatment. Sometimes,
totally,
everyone is in the same spot.
Yeah, nobody's. I mean,
somebody's probably even older than you.
More money because like they've been sober longer and they've saved up. But everybody's in your situation,
right?
Or was just in your situation. My sponsor worked in construction. He worked for a GC, like a little residential GC, and he wanted to go back to school, and he offered me a position to like start as like a laborer or like a helper. And I took it, and that got my feet wet in what I currently do. I was just a total Daryl. Like I could care less about like I was more just like hands. I was pretty useless. Like it was more just like a job than like a career thing for me at that point. I'd worked there for a couple months. I don't remember how long, maybe a couple months. And then we started dating. I don't know if it was before then or after then.
You were at the construction job when I met you. You were working with Stevie for that guy.
Yeah. So I had been there.
Tell people how we met.
So we met at a meetings.
Well,
Mostly a meeting.
I mean, HA,
yeah.
the Friday night meeting.
Heroin Anonymous.
I had been to other meetings that you were at.
Yeah.
But I knew Stevie. I didn't know you because you were so quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of the recovery for me, why it worked, is nothing mattered other than recovery.
Yeah.
Girls didn't matter. Nothing mattered. I went to 7 meetings a week religiously. I was told you were a fucking idiot and gonna get loaded if you didn't go. Like if you were in the house. Like I was that person.
You took it really, really
I
seriously.
Took it really seriously.
You also, didn't you start meditating and praying too?
Yeah. So I started meditating.
What would you do to meditate?
I didn't pray.
Okay.
But I started meditating. I listened to like frequencies in my earbuds.
Okay.
Like guided meditations on YouTube.
Okay.
And taking naps.
Yeah.
I started taking care of myself a little better.
Yeah. And surfing a lot.
Surf. Yeah. I was in the ocean
every day.
Every day. Just having fun, you know, enjoying life. And we met at a meeting.
What made you ask me out if you were not going to?
It was about when I had a year.
It was like so a few weeks shy of you getting a year.
I always said that I wasn't going to try to get into a relationship until I had a year. For whatever, I think my sponsor probably recommended
it's like a thing people say.
But I don't know. I just subtly got in there and pretended like I was going to take some spin classes and everything.
Yeah.
Is probably
so I'm fishing for information. Listen, I'm fishing for compliments here. What about me drew you to me?
I think it was probably the fact that everybody knew that you weren't interested in people in HA.
Okay.
And I was more
that was like a rumor, right? That I wouldn't date any guy from HA.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I can break that. I can get that. But no, I think that was more of it. You seemed like you had your life together. You had been sober for a while. Recovery was appealing to me. So the fact that you were sober was appealing to me.
Yeah.
You were in fitness. I like fitness.
Yeah.
You're very beautiful.
Oh, thanks, honey.
Played a big part in it.
Okay. But yeah, he messaged me. No, you pretended to want to take bar classes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe he would. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which you end up later taking a lot of bar with me and it rehabbed your knee. Bar is good for men, but nobody believes that at first. So whatever.
I also think Stevie and Zach wanted to ask you out. So it might have sped up my.
They did.
Yeah. Might have sped up my.
I thought it was a bet.
Motivation to.
I've told you this before. I thought it was a bet because, like, I knew Zach liked me. He would bring me the chips and put like flowers on it and be like, "Here." And then Stevie actually did.
Piece of shit.
Stevie asked me out for Valentine's Day that year, and I think he was just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck. Like, you know what I mean? Because he was like, "Ha ha ha! Would you even go out with me on Valentine's Day?" Ha ha ha! Like in the text. And I did tell everybody I didn't date anybody in HA, which was true because I finally had some clean time.
Yeah.
Directly due to HA, and I didn't want to fuck it up. Also, I knew none of you knew how old I was because I'm a lot older than Zach, and I knew he didn't know.
Well, you also thought I was a lot younger than
I thought you were Zach's age. Yeah. Zach was 23 and I was 36, and I knew he liked me, and I was like, he doesn't know how old I am. I know he does. None of these guys know. And then Zach made it clear. Stevie asked me out, and then you did. And I was like, these little motherfuckers have a bet, I bet, to see if I go out with one of them. These assholes. You didn't. I remember asking you later.
Definitely not.
But then I did go out with you.
You did. And I think part of it was they felt comfortable around you.
You did.
And
you felt comfortable with me from the beginning, I think.
I did. I think it was timing was good.
Yeah.
I was doing good, and I had no money. So it's not like, but like
you were in a very good place.
I was in a good place in life.
Yeah.
So that happened. So at this point also my dad kind of became terminally sick. However it happened, whatever. At this point it was basically like, I remember like a phone call where it's kind of like, hey, you need to like move home and maybe just like be home. It was like that kind of like severity and like what was going on. Also at this point you had helped me get a job My current employer was already construction, and I got put into an apprenticeship program for 4 years, which changed my life. It was not a bang from the start. I struggled a little bit. I relapsed a couple times at the beginning, probably knowing my dad wasn't doing good. The stress of a relationship, the stress of working 8 hours a day and then going to school twice. It's hard.
It's hard, yeah.
It was summertime. I wasn't good at it from the beginning. A skill that I have is I can work with everybody, so I can fit in, and people don't like push me to the side. I can like get in and work with anybody. So like I was able to do that and stick around long enough to where it started sticking. It took me about 9 months. When I look back of like struggling and not doing good, and even like the superintendent I had was like, yeah, we almost fired you a lot.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
We didn't think it was going to work out.
Wow.
I remember I always wrote him like a card, and the gentleman that got me the job, I wrote him a card like each year, was like, thank you for not firing me.
Yeah.
And after 9 months, something started clicking. I got exponentially better at what I was doing.
He's beloved
year
now.
and year and year. Like I really just started getting good. I had good people training me. I had people that invested a lot of time and effort and energy in me. I'm not going to pretend like I did this on my own. If I didn't have those people, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And yeah, so that kind of goes. I tore my knee. I guess if we're going through, I'll kind of like speed through, nothing really happens.
Yeah. The only thing I think that's important here, because I want to ask in our questions.
Yeah.
You do relapse though every, I'd say 9 months or so this whole time.
Yeah.
So for a day or two, because one of the things I want to ask you about is that, so we don't have to talk about that yet, but like that would happen here sporadically and it would be really stressful and I would catch him and test him. It would be this whole fucking thing.
Yeah. I think I stopped prioritizing recovery.
Yeah, that's true. For sure.
Very clear.
Yeah, that's true.
I keep stuff in, and I still do to some extent, but like if I'm stressed or like tired, or like I would just religiously work out like 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Like
waking up at 4 a.m. to work out early before going to work, like crazy early hours.
Yeah. But it takes a toll. It takes a toll on you. And I would be unwilling to recognize the toll that it was taking on me. Not eating, like just all the stuff. Like, if you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, like you're fucked.
Right.
And that was kind of, I'd get tired because, I mean, sitting in class after you work 8 hours a day and a hot day is brutal for 4 hours. It's hard to stay awake. My dad's sick. Yeah. Getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. I have knee surgery. I have a really bad relapse then. I take pain pills, and I buy oxys separately from pain pills. End up in treatment. Go to treatment, but like I pull it together.
Went to my detox.
I went to your detox. Yeah, you didn't let me go to a nice one. You made me go to.
He went where I went.
I went when she went, but no, it was good. It was what I needed.
Yeah.
Pull my life together. Like pull it together. I'm on disability, so I'm not having to work. We get married, and I think life is just hard. I think the hard thing for me and for our family as a whole, dealing with the reality of my dad's situation, we never dealt with it as a family. Okay. So.
What do you mean?
We knew what was coming, but like, it was just always like beat around the bush. Like, like
no one ever said, Skylar, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just all very just.
No emotions were processed.
Everything was stressful.
Yeah. It was chaos and no processing, I would say.
Totally. Chaos, no processing.
And then we opened the studio.
Yeah. So I'm working full time. I'm going to school twice a week, and we open a small business. And then COVID happens. And my dad's dying. It was too much for me to handle. I can deal with a lot for a long period of time. The COVID stuff with the studio was just a lot. Yeah. I loved what we got to do.
Okay, that's one of my questions.
Yeah, no, I love what we got to do. Like, we got to partner in something. It was cool and fun. I mean, who has the opportunity to own a small business and a gym? And, it was something you wanted to do. And it was cool to be a part of because people loved it.
Yeah. And you got to learn how to build a gym. You renovated the whole thing.
We got to renovate, and
we built a beautiful, amazing space.
Yeah, and it was fun. I mean, it was fun. Like, it was a place for us to go during COVID. We got our own gym we got to go to, so nobody could turn us away. We could do what we wanted. I think the hard part for me is that if I could go back, I would still do it. I would have, in a perfect world, I would have spent a lot more time with my dad, but I don't think I was capable of doing that because of where I was, like, mentally with recovery and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm mad that I didn't get to see my dad, but that's of my own doing. You know, like, I was not capable of moving home, and I mean, we had a life down here.
Yeah. There's also always such a risk when you go to San Francisco, and when you go to San Francisco alone, and I didn't want you doing that a lot.
Well, that's what I mean.
Okay.
I was like, now things are different now. I'm saying back then.
Yeah.
My recovery wasn't strong. My spirituality wasn't strong.
Yeah.
Like, I was just, things were chaotic.
Well,
the studio and COVID.
We basically did no recovery, either one of us, for years, other than me calling Rachel.
Yeah.
And I guess I started the show, which I don't consider sobriety.
Totally.
But you and I didn't go to meetings for years.
Yeah.
Neither one of us.
So, yeah. So that's
2019 is when we
2019
opened.
2020.
2020 is when COVID happened. And then I think your dad died in 2021 in February.
So I got to go home for Thanksgiving 2020, and I was sober when I went up there.
Oh, right.
I was sober. I guess the biggest probably regret I have in my life is I went up there and I got loaded. And the last time I saw my dad, I was loaded, and it sucks. And that is what drugs take you to, you know?
And no one knew that until you told me years later, because you were so ashamed.
Yeah, I didn't tell anybody that. I don't know if they knew. So, like, Matt got food poisoning, and then our
brother-in-law.
Yeah, I took fentanyl. They were fentanyl pills, so I got sick. Okay. It wasn't, so, like, that's...
Well, you missed your flight because you were sick, and of course I asked you if you were high.
Yeah.
And you, of course, obviously said no.
And I think they were fentanyl pills because they got... Normal oxys don't make me sick. I'm pretty sure it was fentanyl or whatever. But so, yeah, the last time I saw my dad, I was loaded, and that was Thanksgiving. And I was supposed to go see him for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So, I think he passed away on a Saturday. I was going to go up Friday to see him for the weekend, and we pushed it a week because we were reopening the studio, I think is what we were doing for, like, the COVID openings. And he passed away that Saturday. And there's nobody to blame other than me for that. That's why, like, I know you've asked, like,
do you
about
blame
the studio.
me or resent me?
No, because
like, really?
nobody forced me to stay. Nobody forced me to stay.
Honey, you got up there a lot. I know that in a perfect world, maybe you would have gone up once a month.
Yeah.
But for an adult man in his 30s with a business and a marriage and a wife, you went up every few months. You went up a lot, like more than the average person travels to see an elderly parent.
No,
so
I know. I think it's more just the circumstances.
Yeah.
Is that it was very obvious because he was on hospice care.
Yeah.
But I knew that I'd relapsed when I went up to see him. I felt guilty because it's just, I think he knew that I was loaded. Like, just one of those things, and it sucks. But, you know, that happened, and he passed away. You know, I stayed sober after that. Like, I didn't use when we had found out, and I thought that I was okay. You know, like, I thought, like, I was like, you know what, like, I'm going to be okay. Like, it's going to be fine. And we go up. I mean, my family's a mess. We don't know how to communicate with each other. We don't know how to talk. My sister has 2 younger kids, and she has to take care of them. But my mom is a fucking mess, and my sister has to take care of her, and I can't take care of anybody because I'm a fucking mess. Like, it's just really a bad situation. and I'm going through my dad's stuff, like trying to like bring down some like memorabilia, and he's got 2 fucking Percocet bottles in his clothes, and I take them and I use.
Okay, so that is true.
Yeah.
I've always wondered if that story was true. That really happened.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew you got high, but
there.
I didn't know if that's how that happened. Okay.
And I mean, they're Vicodin and perk. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean,
it wasn't oxygen.
anybody that's a heroin addict, it's like, oh, it's not that bad.
Right.
But for me, it's still, it's a relapse. And like, I didn't spiral. Like, it just happened. So that was
like February of 2021.
Yeah, February of 2021.
And then in March, you went up there to stay, and everything got that's when everything is like really bad until a year ago.
Well, no. So it would have been the next year.
Oh, really?
Next March, yeah.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right.
So after that, I kind of keep it together. I'm not really doing anything. No recovery, nothing. Like, work is progressing. I'm getting better at work. I'm moving up in the world at work. I have a really bad relapse in March the following year.
Of 2022.
2022.
Well, you graduate and you get your journeyman card also during this time.
Yeah. So I graduate school. I stay in school. I don't stop going.
Right.
I sat in class when we were up at my dad's service because I didn't want to I put in a lot of effort. And it was kind of one of those things where
You also felt like your father would want you to do that. You were very clear on that.
Totally. So I didn't stop. I went through the process. I got my journeyman's card, carpenter. And then I started having to travel for work. And I just wasn't really prepared for it,
Yeah.
I could do the work. It was just more like my life was just like all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, my life was just scattered. I had a really bad relapse for 2 weeks. It was just 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Come home, kind of pull it together a little bit. And then...
Well, you got on Suboxone when you came home too, which was different.
Yeah, I got on Suboxone.
Prior to that, you hadn't been on Suboxone since I'd known you.
Yeah. I had been prescribed Ritalin I had been on Ritalin for a while, and then for whatever reason, over the summer, I started snorting my Ritalin. Like, just kind of things got out of hand a little bit. But I'm still, I didn't know. Yeah, I don't, it is what it is. Like, work kept going. I decided to leave my company and go to a new company. It's a very big.
It's a massive career leap.
Major career jump at a time where I was snorting Ritalin and not doing good and really not in a good place. And I have an epic meltdown at work. It wasn't the stress of work. It was, my addiction just took off again. Yeah. And I'm snorting oxys and Ritalin at work in the trailer and fucking porta potties and driving around and probably looking psychotic. And it just was all bad. And I ended up going to a couple treatments. I ended up getting fired from this company for good reason. I have an epic meltdown. I'm spun out of my mind. This is probably the first time I've really gone balls to the wall with uppers to some extent. I was probably snorting like 30 or 40 Ritalin a day. And
this is the year that you guys kind of have heard me talk about. This goes from September of 2022 through September of 2023. And it was the worst thing I've ever witnessed.
It was bad.
And I was trying to stop him every day. And we came up with all this shit to try to manage it. We faked a COVID test so that he could go to a detox. And then we faked a nervous breakdown so he could go to another detox. And then I was supposed to pick up the pills and keep them and give them to you because we went through this period where he was like, Ritalin does help me, but I'm abusing it. So if I can ration it, we'll do that. And then it was just a nightmare of like me trying to control it and manage it and help you, and you trying to continue using as best you could.
Totally.
And we had Tank, who was a baby.
Yeah, we had my little boy.
It was horrible.
I just have at this point, like, so I had something happen. I had to go to the hospital.
Oh, your appendix burst, or no, your pancreas burst, or your appendix.
Yeah, something bad happened. I had to go to the hospital.
Like a legitimate illness.
Yeah. They had to take out something in my stomach. Oh, gallstones.
That's right. They took out your gallbladder.
So they took out my gallbladder, and I got fired while I was at the hospital. I got on a phone call, and they fired me when I was there. So yeah, that again, addiction.
I think that moment for you though
Well, I think it pushed me.
Was like the worst moment probably you've had so far in your life, possibly.
I think it pushed me farther over the edge to speed up the meltdown a little bit. I was basically just living out of my car. I wasn't living here with you. You had kicked me out finally, which you should have done because I wasn't providing or doing anything. I was going to steal whatever was here. I was basically living in my car like a psychopath, driving around all day just snorting pills. That's all I did for months.
I would watch you on the Life 360 tracker. It was crazy.
No, and I have PTSD to this day. Like whenever I get in a car, I'm like
driving around.
Yeah,
it reminds you of just driving around doing pills.
Stresses me out driving in my car.
Well, and the paranoia. Yeah, I think was so extreme. I've never seen paranoia this extreme in my life.
Yeah.
It was debilitatingly bad. Like everybody gets like tweaker moments where you get paranoid and you think a cop is at the door and they're not. Like that's pretty common. But this wasn't that. This was a pathological high level of really believing to his core.
Yeah. No, I thought like
the CIA was chasing him. Yeah. The FBI.
I thought there was like somebody was like hidden in my car that was like
manipulating the car.
Yeah, and it was bad. Like helicopter was following me around. Like it was all bad. Yeah, I think the severe paranoia brought me to my knees a little quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, I went for a long time. So a year ago today.
A year ago yesterday.
You Venmo me money, cash at me, whatever. I get an oxy so that I'm not detoxing or spun out going through customs and I can drive home. I run out of gas twice. Like it's a whole fucking mess.
How'd you get money for gas?
I ran out of gas in TJ.
Oh shit.
And I was sitting in my car for hours.
Oh, that's when you called me.
That's when I called you.
Okay.
I had to push my car to a gas station. Luckily people came and helped and pushed it down there.
This is the moment y'all heard me and Narcan Nate talking about when I called Nate and was like, he's wanting money. I know I shouldn't, whatever. And Nate was like, no, you have to do whatever you can live with. And I said, you're right. And I had not been giving you any money at this point. So you'd been asking for months and I was saying no. So this wasn't like a pattern of ours.
Yeah.
And then that's when Nate was like, man, that motherfucker's probably dehydrated as fuck. Yeah. Were you?
Totally dehydrated. beyond dehydrated.
That's when I sent you money.
But that's when you sent me money. I got enough to get some gas. But I'm so paranoid.
Yeah.
I put gas in my car and I drive around TJ for fucking 30 minutes. I waste
thinking
a lot
people
of gas.
Are following you.
Thinking people are following me.
Did you ever think I was a part of the conspiracy and trying to get you caught or anything?
No, not really.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
Things probably came up every once in a while, but it was never like I never was like something I like stuck onto.
Okay. Because like my dad was worried about that. My dad was like, he's going to think you're in on it. What if he hurts you?
Yeah.
And I was like, so he would never hurt me ever under any circumstances. Sorry. I know that drug addicts are unpredictable, but Skylar, even on PCP, would never hurt me. But also, it doesn't ever seem like he thinks I'm part of the conspiracy.
Yeah. No,
it didn't seem like you thought that I was, your mom was, or that Kim was.
No.
You didn't seem to think that we were part of it.
No, not at all. So yeah, I'm driving home. I run out of gas on the 15 again, and I'm stuck on the side of the freeway for I don't even know how long, 2 hours. I'm ripping the car apart because I think somebody's in the car, like on the side of the freeway. And then like one of the AAA or like a city maintenance car drives by and puts some gas in it.
Oh, that was nice.
Because they saw that I was on the side of the freeway. And I made it. I ran out of gas at the bottom of our hill and called you. And you came and picked me up. And I was so broken at that point. I was ready to stop. But nothing else was going to get me to stop at that point. Nothing else was going to stop me at that point. So, but I was prepared to stop when I called. I wouldn't have driven back home if I wasn't prepared to stop. I would have just stayed down there.
Right.
So I get sober. Detox wasn't physically that bad. The physical part wasn't that bad, but the mental psychosis part was brutal.
Yeah.
And I think for 90 days was probably the hardest 90 days imaginable.
Like he was still fully paranoid the whole time, still thinking
Totally.
the neighbors were involved in this plot. And it was like 3 months into being sober.
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. Like, and
he didn't talk much at all. We barely spoke to each other.
And like I told you, I was a day or two away from being prepared to like file for divorce and check myself into like a long-term mental health treatment center.
File for divorce so that I didn't have to deal with it.
Exactly.
Not because
I think I thought that I was going to be too much of a burden, but also the thought of me having to take care of somebody was too much at that point. I was working at this point too.
Yeah.
So I was working. I was making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
A past work acquaintance had offered me a job and told them that I was in a transition phase, and they offered me a position to work there at the ABC training school.
They've heard me talk about the Miracle before. This was the Miracle job that he had at first.
So, and I was fucking useless. Like I remember like trying to like, I couldn't swing a hammer. Like I was really like not good. Like I couldn't swing a hammer. Like I couldn't think clearly. Like I was just I was so lost. And then after 90 days.
Well, I think I insisted that we go see the doctor finally.
So I finally went to the doctor.
Because I was like, this is pathological.
Well, I told my sponsor too. I was like, I'm ready just to commit suicide. I'm ready. I just don't want to live anymore.
Okay.
And he was like, okay, we'll go see a doctor. It's
Right.
probably a better idea than committing suicide.
And we told him what was going on.
Yeah. I think at that point I'd got back on Vivitrol soon afterwards.
Yeah, about that time.
I had gotten on some antipsychotic medication, some antidepressants. It took maybe like a week or two, but then it started easing
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Just physically, like I couldn't do much. Like I still like I went to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, but like there was no progress.
Yeah.
It was more just like a grind, like
just
one more day, like it's gonna get better. One more day, it's gonna get, and like you know me, like I cried once when my dad died. I was literally on the brink of crying every single day in the car. Like that's how like broken I was. Like it's just I couldn't deal with it. But I was given an opportunity to work in a closed environment to where I got over the paranoia. Like it was slow, and it was stressful and it was hard, and it was an office job. And at that point, I was so broken, I didn't know if I wanted to get back into the field in construction because I was like, I had ruined it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, like, construction world's small. I mean, it's large, but it's small.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows I'd stolen. Well, they fired me because I had stolen from them. So everybody knew. I didn't want to face it. So I was just like, fuck it. I'll just work here, like training, like just stay out of the field. And the clearer my head got, the more I was like, fuck this. Like,
I want to go back.
I want to go back. Like, I don't want to stop. I had a sponsor. So I asked somebody to be my sponsor in the middle of the psychosis.
Yeah.
So
Well, we finally started. This is when we went back.
Yeah.
We went back to meetings.
Yeah.
And got back involved in HA again, which we had not done in a very, very long time. Not even me.
Totally.
And we fully got committed again. And then Kevin, who I've interviewed, moved heaven and earth to keep getting Skylar commitments at our meeting. And Steven spoke like 3 weeks in.
Yeah.
And you asked him to sponsor you. And you hadn't had a sponsor in years.
Yeah. In a while.
Since we were like first
while.
Married or dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hadn't had a sponsor in a while. Basically, we're like, I need to get a sponsor, but we go to meetings and I'm so paranoid I don't trust anybody at this point. Nobody. And
you would think people in the meetings were looking at him and talking about him.
Yeah. Well, so when I get sober, my mental health stuff comes back.
Yeah.
But the psychosis just amplified it by like 1 million.
Yeah.
So it was just way worse. So again, somebody who I'd seen on one of our job sites and had known was in recovery, and I'd seen him at meetings before, spoke at a meeting. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to ask him, see if he'll be my sponsor. He works in the trades. Like, he's married.
Yeah.
I knew he was married. I know he works
He relapsed
in the
in his marriage, which ended up being really helpful.
So again, but I didn't know him. Like, I don't know him personally.
Right.
Like, I don't know what he's like or who like.
Yeah.
I had seen him once or twice or 3 times, or I'd seen him on the job that we were working on, which was enough for me to be like, oh, he's not a fit.
Right. Okay. To know that he wasn't involved in a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because you'd seen him over
Which
the
is
years.
great, but that was enough. It was enough for me. It was enough. So I ask him, and he says maybe. He doesn't say yes. It's more just like call me every day or text me every day, and let's see where it goes from there. And I call him, I check in, I just keep going and going, and then he finally is like, okay, like yes. This was at the beginning, so he's been sponsoring me for most of the year. I'm honest with him. I don't tell him everything. It's not like the perfect sponsor-sponsee relationship, but I've been very honest about my mental health stuff that's been going on. If we argue and fight with stuff I usually don't talk about, like I have brought it up with him, which helps because he's a good balance. Because obviously when you do the kind of wreckage we do as addicts and you get sober, the world just isn't perfect right away. So you have to deal with the wreckage, but it's hard to deal with it because you're not emotionally capable of doing it.
Right.
I think luckily for me, I was so wrecked and psychotic that you gave me space.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to really delve into anything until you gave me space for 90 days, and then we could kind of broach some of the stuff that
I couldn't talk to you.
Yeah, I kind of refused to deal with it, really.
Well, and there were moments.
But that helped.
It did help you. For me, though, I thought maybe it was going to be like this forever. And I remember thinking, we'd be in the car just in silence. And this is where having a sponsor is so helpful, because I called Rachel and I was like, because obviously I'm a talker.
Yeah.
And I have to have a partner that will talk to me about things. I have to. It's one of my top things.
Yeah.
And I call Rachel and I was like, did I ever talk to him? Or was I just so excited to get married that I overlooked that he's mute?
Yeah.
And Rachel was like, no, you did. You talked to him all the time. Of course.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But she would remind me of that. And Steven in your life was I remember you had 30 days and you met him at a meeting and I wanted a picture. And I would ask Skylar for live photos to prove where he was. And I would ask for the live photo because sometimes I'd get the Google image photos. And he would get irritated as fuck. And Steven, you must have told him. And he was like, dude, just do it. It's fine. It's not forever.
Yeah.
And if you had any other sponsor in the world who had maybe been yeah, that seems extreme.
Yeah.
We might not be sitting here.
Totally.
But fucking thank God he was the right sponsor for you. He had relapsed in his marriage. If you'd had a single guy who was in his 20s, he might have been damn, she's being a bitch.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Thank God.
No,
so
totally.
Both of ours, that's where having an outside person is so helpful.
Yeah.
No,
and I think one of the questions you asked me before was what you did that helped and what you did that didn't.
Yes.
So I think in prior circumstances for people, you want to know everything and be very involved with everything. And it gets things heated if it's not something you want to hear happen. I'm not saying that's wrong. In this circumstance, because of what was going on and the psychosis I was dealing with, you let off a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And I think it gave me time to come back. I
Yeah.
mean, it took 6 months for me to come back. It wasn't.
Well, we also had the Life 360 though.
Totally.
Which was helpful because I didn't have to ask you that much, because his big tell is he would turn off the Life 360.
Yeah.
And I knew, but it never went off.
Yeah.
There was no glitch. So that's also why I was able to let up. In the beginning, I was checking.
Yeah.
But I stopped checking. I've told you this.
No, but I'm not.
After a few months.
I'm just mean in general.
In general. Okay.
In general. It probably took me 6 months to come around.
Yeah.
And I'm still coming around.
You think?
I think I'm still coming back. It's more normal now, but there are times where I'm you feel a little weird or whatever, but that's the severity of it. Took me 6 months to go from outer space to my feet on the ground and be okay, I'm safe. I'm safe.
Yeah.
That's a mixture of praying, meditating, working steps, medication for a little bit.
Yeah.
And just trying, I think what has worked for me this time is I have a sponsor.
Yeah.
I'm not lying. I'm not lying about having a sponsor.
Yeah.
I pray 5, 6, 7 days a week. I pray almost every day.
Okay.
I meditate almost every day. I work a 10th step almost every single day. I don't call my sponsor or text him every day, but we communicate. I go to at least a meeting a week. I try to do 2 meetings every week.
And you've had a commitment at a meeting almost the whole time.
I have a commitment at a meeting. I work out. So fitness is a big part of my recovery.
Yeah.
It's been a grind. It's been very hard for me to keep this going, but
do you feel now like you're getting stronger? Because for a while you didn't think you were getting any stronger.
No, I mean,
you still don't?
No, I do. I just think it's been harder. But the gym for me, it helps my day get going and helps clear my head. It's kind of like a release for me. I think people in recovery can understand. It's kind of like
it's more mental.
It's a mental thing.
Yeah.
It helps get my day going. And then, so I was at the ABC training facility October, November, December, January, February, March. So 6 months. I had cleared up enough and had thought about it enough and wanted to get back into the field in construction, work on actual job sites, not in a training facility. And I got hired back by the company that I had left.
Not the one where he got fired, but the first one where he'd been for like 5 years very successfully.
Yeah, so I was doing very well and I left, and it was, in the moment, it was the right decision to leave for the career opportunity.
It totally was.
But I probably would have had a meltdown there if I would have stayed.
You would have.
So
you were already on that track.
Yeah, so I didn't burn that bridge.
Yeah.
At least with that. I'm back and I've been there for the past 6 months and doing good. Very grateful to be back. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's been a rough year.
I have to tell you, you just did so good. I was really worried it was going to be difficult to get you to talk, and it wasn't at all.
Good.
You did fantastic.
Oh, good.
And I'm so...
Did I miss anything?
Well, I've got a few questions. No, you didn't miss it. I mean, I've got a couple of things I want to ask, but you did a great job of
thank you.
Just sharing your story, and...
I mean, I wanted to come on. I'm very private.
Yeah, that's also why I wasn't sure if you were going to want to talk about anything, really.
This will be the first time my family will hear this. Mm-hmm. I don't share anything with anybody. But like I said, if I could do one thing to show my appreciation for you, it would be to come on the podcast and help support you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And it would be to help somebody out there who is dealing with the same stuff. Because it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's different for everybody. I think when you have extreme mental health problems, it amplifies it. And it makes life way harder. And you look at me from the outside and you'd have no idea.
Yeah.
And you'd have no clue. But just because you might look a certain way or hide it doesn't mean that you're struggling. And it's like, I get it. Like, I hear voices. I mean, I think people are talking about me. I still do to this day.
You still feel that way?
It's just, I have learned to deal with it to some extent.
Yeah.
Like conversations in my head that try to direct me. It's just stuff I've dealt with my whole life.
Yeah.
And I think the industry that I fell into, construction, I think it's filled with people like me.
Yeah.
And I think it's filled with people that weren't fit for other areas in the world, but are very intelligent.
Yeah.
Very hardworking, like working with their hands. That's something in school, like I talked about earlier. I learn physically, like seeing stuff, doing stuff, like all this stuff, and I thrive at it. I really do. Like, I'm still getting better and learning, 5, 6, 7 years in.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for being able to work in construction, because I don't think I'd be successful at much else other than this.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm on a job site, I feel like it's home, because you see somebody, you're like, oh, it's a fucking idiot like me. This and we all think this, you think the same. You're like, oh, I guarantee you 99% of these people probably went to continuation school,
right?
But they're probably the smartest kid,
right?
They were probably one of the smartest kids in school. They just didn't learn
in the same way.
Yeah. So it's I'm super, I'm grateful, and when I'm on a job site, I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
When I'm other places, I don't.
Yeah.
So it's I'm grateful you helped get me to that point. I'm grateful for my sponsor to opening up to that point. I'm grateful for my employer, for the schools. I'm grateful for everybody that helped me.
Yeah.
Because without everybody, I wouldn't be where I was today.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of starting.
Yeah.
You know, so
you also got baptized and started going to church.
I did. Yeah.
Where did that come from? Because that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So
which actually goes along with one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Higher power stuff. A lot of people struggle with that. Did you? Because it wasn't a part of growing up. And then how did it evolve to you getting baptized at a Christian church?
So when I first went to SCRC 8 years ago, I had a strong higher power connection.
At that time?
At that time. I had lost it as time went on.
Yeah.
I had a very, very hard time with higher power this past year. Very hard time. Okay. I would say I'm still like on the fence with it, which is probably part of the reason why I started going to church was because like I needed a little push to like get it.
Okay.
And I think it's my dad dying.
Yeah.
I'm bitter as shit still. I haven't gotten over it.
Bitter about what?
I didn't get to spend like there's just a lot
just the circumstances.
Just circumstances that like he had to suffer like that. Like you know, like it's hard for me to like just come to term like, oh, like there was a reason for that. Like, you know, like
right, okay.
You know, like I know that's wrong. Just
but no, it's not necessarily. Yeah. Not everybody subscribes to the belief that everything happens for a reason. You don't have to, you know what I mean? There are different beliefs around that. So I think it's okay to still be upset about the circumstances.
Totally. So I think with that, I think my psychosis played a part in it.
Yeah.
A little bit. I think it's hard to have a higher power when you think your higher power might be a fed. So yeah, I was training at a gym and one of the guys there goes to church and kept bringing it up like, hey, go to church, hey, go to church, hey, go to church. And in treatment centers, they will take you to church sometimes, not SCRC, but like some that you go to. So I'd been to church.
Yeah.
A couple times. It's okay, little boy. You know, I don't know why I started going. I don't have a good answer for that. I think what I've done this time around is do stuff differently than I've been doing before.
Okay.
And church is different for me.
Okay.
It's hit or miss. I've been to some good churches. I've been to some bad churches. So I didn't know how this was going to work out.
Yeah.
It felt like a good community. It's local. I feel like I can understand I mean, I get what they're saying, but like, I don't scripture. I don't fucking know what the hell is going on.
But you get the message.
I get the message.
Even though you can never tell me what it was when I ask you.
No,
that's fine.
I forget.
You know what? I'm going to stop asking because it really doesn't matter.
But like, I hear what they're saying.
Okay.
It's relatable what they're saying. It's not just reading Bible verses, which is for me was kind of like, oh, that's what church is about. Just reading scripture. And it's like, I'm not.
But this is a big contemporary church with a band. The pastor wears jeans.
Yeah, it's very casual. Like, it's like very like, it's something I can relate to.
Right. And then you chose to get baptized.
And then I chose to get baptized.
What prompted that?
Again, I think it was struggling with a higher power. And I think it was doing something to get out of self.
Okay.
So I think believing in something greater than myself has helped me in the past.
Okay.
So I've sinned a lot. I think it was worth doing, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
You know, it's still been slow too. Like it's like I go to church, like again, like I'm private and shy, so it's like I interact here or there, like I kind of show up and leave. Like I do that at meetings also. It's not out of like disrespect or
I do that too though. We both do that.
Yeah. I am trying to do things to better myself and to better my life, and it seemed like a very obvious choice in doing it. So no, I like going to church. It's a routine.
You go every Sunday.
It's a routine thing for me.
Yeah.
And I think for addicts and alcoholics, routine is super important. I feel like if you don't have a routine, you set yourself up for like idle hands. Like idle hands are the devil type deal.
Yeah.
Like, I think the busier I am without burning myself out, the better.
I also think that was one good thing about the studio. Actually, it kept you really busy during the renovation. And I think that may have been why some of the relapses weren't that bad.
Yeah.
But you were so busy with the renovation, and you took a lot of pride in the renovation. I know there was the stress involved with the studio for both of us.
Totally.
But you were proud of the renovation. You built a beautiful gym with your bare hands.
Yeah.
And that did keep you really busy during that time. But you're like the most disciplined, routine person probably that I've ever met. Like, walk through a day for you if you're doing all the stuff that you want to do.
I wake up 3:15. I go work out.
3:15 a.m.
a.m. Go work out. I mean, it's not even like, I mean, go to work, come back, I do a 10-step. I mean, it's like everything I do is like on a regular basis.
Right.
Like, it's like when I take a shower, like when I get up in the morning, when I do a 10-step, when I pray, when I meditate, it's more just the repetitiveness.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, like I get irritated if like I get
if you can't do it,
I, like can't, like I'm like, ugh, like get a little crazy.
Yeah. What do you think the benefit is of you doing the 10th step every day? Or, I mean, is there one?
No, it bugs the shit. I hate fucking writing it.
You do?
At the end of the day, it's
Okay.
super annoying. I'd rather just hop into bed.
Yeah.
But for somebody like me, so when I wake up, it's go time. Like, it's
Yeah.
like I go. The second I wake up, it's go. It's move. At work, it's the same way. It's move, move. You miss stuff during the day. You look over stuff during the day where you might have been an asshole or like things might have stressed you out. And I think it gives me pause so I do it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's when you're supposed to do it. Because like part of it is like, was there fear in your life? So like it gives me a chance to be honest, because like I still get paranoid, or not paranoid, but like I still get like caught up in like bullshit.
Right.
This person was fucking doing this to fuck, you know, like just like you get caught up. Like,
Yeah.
And like work is when it gets stressful and stuff. So like it gives me a pause at the end of the day where work is stressful sometimes.
Yeah.
Life is stressful sometimes, to like be like, okay, like how was my day? I look at it and sometimes I'm like, what's the fucking point? Like they're like, what do you wish you could have done? And it's always like, call sponsor, call mom, call sister, pay bill, call mom, call sponsor. It's like the same shit every day. But I call my mom more now.
Right.
It's little,
Yeah.
very little, but I call her.
But it's huge at the same time.
Yeah. I'll text or call my sister.
Yeah.
It will remind me to text or call my sponsor.
Totally.
I paid my registration the other
Oh,
day.
yeah.
So like
Okay.
it's like on there like car registration
Yeah.
for fucking 6 months.
Right.
I
Yeah.
finally paid it. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's little stuff like that. Did I pray or meditate today? Did I call my sponsor? Did I go to a meeting? And I think it's more just like, if anything, it just like helps me remember like, hey, you did do some stuff right today. Because like sometimes like I'll be like, I see success by like stuff you completed in the day.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you'll ask me like, how are you doing at work? And if like, unless I've done something, I'm like even at like ABC when you were asking me like, oh, do you think they like you here? I'm like, fuck, I haven't done shit. Like,
right.
So like, I very much am like that. So it helps me personally to be like, oh, like you did pray or meditate. Like
notice progress.
Yeah, totally.
Or good
like,
things.
I'm more like, even now, like our projects at work are killing it. Like our jobs are doing very well, but it's hard for me to like be like, hey, I'm doing great, because like the job hasn't closed out, or like there's still stuff we're like that.
Right.
So it's like I'm very, and it's not a good way to think.
Yeah.
So I think the 10th step helps me actually like stop and pause and be like, okay, like.
Yeah. Well, it also for you too, because you have a hard time connecting with your emotions sometimes and knowing how you feel. And this would like force you to do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
What's your favorite step?
I'd probably say, the most important step is your 4th step for recovery. I'd say for me, the most important step is making amends.
Yeah.
In the long run. I think another question you asked is like dealing with some of the stuff that you've done. And
yeah.
So my amends are in like the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like it's not normal.
Right.
So
they're also massive betrayals of trust for people that you love, like your mom and me. And so the question I'd asked him to think about yesterday was, I know you used longer sometimes because you're like, dude, I'm such a piece of shit. Why would I stop now? So how do you reconcile that? Like if somebody is still using right now and they're like, dude, I like fucked my best friend's wife. How do I ever come back from that? Like what would you say?
I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like I've got a sponsor that called me out the other day that's like, hey, you need to be making these amends. Like that doesn't let off.
Okay.
Because it's hard because like a lot of them are girlfriends.
Yeah.
People that were good to me.
Yeah.
That I hurt. That I stole from.
Yeah.
My best friends in life that I've stolen from.
Yeah.
Every family member I've stolen from. So it's like at some point, I think you're kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, it's easier for me just to live by myself than to actually like try to do this. But that's not true. And I think, I mean, it's not like all of them are that much. I mean, it's like a couple $100 here or there. It's literally less about the money. I think for me, it's more about the shame.
Yeah.
Because I like seeing myself as like a normal person, right? Like I can get delusional and be like, I'm just a normal person.
Yeah.
Right? And I can get away with it really well, actually. It's almost like a chip in the armor to be like, hey, I need to go face this girl that I stole her purse and like made her life difficult.
Yeah.
Who was like a girl that I liked at the time.
Yeah.
And I have to face it and be like, hey, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Make sure he doesn't walk over the
Come
court.
here, my little boy.
Okay. Yeah.
And face this. And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Is like actually is dealing with it. I made amends to you. You were the first person I made amends to. I'm going to make an amends to my mom when she comes down. I have to make an amends to my sister and some close friends and some ex-girlfriends. And, you know, it's if the consequences of my addiction, I'll speak for myself. The consequences of my addiction are so severe that the embarrassment and shame of having to face some of the stuff I did, it's so small compared to like, if all I have to do is face these people and say I'm sorry and apologize and pay them back so that I can live how I feel right now, it's like a no-brainer. Like, why would you not?
Versus living in TJ strung out in your car.
Because that's where it goes. How many, every time.
Every time.
No matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And it's just like, those people, I mean, certain people might hold on to it for a long time, but I hold on to it longer than they do.
Yeah.
I'm sure it bothers me way more because I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
I think about all those people all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's part of recovery, and you hear people's stories in meetings and you relate to it.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about it when somebody's like, yeah, I fucking stole from my girlfriend. I'm like, fuck. Like,
yeah.
me too, man. Like,
yeah.
It just makes you think about it. It's like never ending. But I would say for anybody, there's nothing that you can do that you can't undo at some point. And if those people don't want to be in your life, because not every amends is going to go good.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to be a part of your life, and not everybody wants to see you again, or not everybody wants you to repay them, and people will stay mad and bitter for the rest of their lives, and which is fine. But that doesn't mean that you need to stay in this fucking cursed world of addiction for the rest of your life. Like, it's all you need to do is clean your side of the street and move on, and that's all that you need to do. So I would say I've done as bad as you can do in addiction, and you know, I need to make amends and do it, and some might go well, some might not go well, but it's a small price to pay for like a clear head and like happiness, for sure.
Yeah. So one of the things I used to ask you that you didn't ever know the answer to, and you still might not, is I would say, why did you relapse this time? You had 9 months, everything was fine. And you would always say, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know what leads you to relapse now? Or do you still feel like you're not sure? Okay, Bubba.
I've been such a good boy.
You've been very good. You sit with Daddy.
Very good boy. Oh, you're going to fall off? I think mental health plays into it a lot.
Okay.
I think knowing that I can take a substance that will shut off the noise or voices or whatever's going on in my head. I think that...
Stop. We're almost done. Stop.
I think that is half of it.
Okay.
I think the other half is when I stop doing things that are taking care of me and my mental health.
Right.
So meetings, recovery,
Yeah.
sponsor. So like, I think when I start prioritizing, and I don't always prioritize. I mean, I won't go to a meeting here or there. Like, so it doesn't mean one time.
Yeah.
It just means a consistent like
pattern
prioritizing stuff.
Yeah.
Because before it's like, I don't think it has anything to do with stress, because you can deal with a lot of stress as long as you're doing what you need to do for like your recovery.
Okay.
So I've probably said that before, where it was stress related. I think it's more mental health is probably half of it. And I think the other half is taking care of that and prioritizing recovery.
I was thinking that too. It almost doesn't even matter if you know or not, as long as you're doing the actions of recovery, then maybe you don't need to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You kind of asked this. What did I do that was helpful and what did I do that wasn't helpful?
No, I think what you did that was helpful was you left me alone.
Okay.
You got me. I know a lot of people were telling you to not get me, but that was a risk.
Yeah.
And there were other times where you've let me back in the house and stuff, and things didn't go good or whatever. But in this moment, looking back, that was a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think giving time. I think also you've been very, like, before you're like, you need to get to a meeting, or like you're gonna fucking you get mad because like you know what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
I think this time you've more just let me do it to see how it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And if it didn't work, it was gonna be because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And if it worked, it's because I did it.
Right.
So I think you very much took a back seat
Yeah.
to the outcome.
Right.
Which is what you need to do.
Yeah. Like not asking about like step work and stuff, which I think I used to do.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to the most in your and our future right now?
I am looking forward to, so from, I guess, me directly and then ours, I guess they both are the same. I'm looking forward to an opportunity for us to travel.
Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to just what the future holds if I don't use and stay on this path. I mean, things really move quickly when I'm not using.
Yeah.
So I think I'm on a good track for that.
Yeah.
And I think our lives are going to be good.
Me too.
Very good.
What is your ideal vacation for us to take? By the way, I'm more Greece now than Italy. I just spoke to Chloe. She got back from her honeymoon and she said Italy is like packed.
Yeah.
And Greece is like a little bit more laid back.
Yeah.
Either one, though.
I mean, I think, can I give multiple?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'd love to go to Bali.
Yeah, me too.
And just even like, not even just surf, like go, like, just like the country, like actually go see like Bali as a whole. I would love to go to like the Alps and stay in like a cool mountain place in the snow. And then, I think like Positano would be fun.
Yeah, me too. Are you glad we didn't have kids?
It's a hard question.
Yeah.
I think I've not wanted to have kids because I'm afraid that they will have the same mental health issues that I had, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's also been hard for me to pull together long enough time to like really be like, oh, I can take care of a kid.
Yeah.
So it's not really a yes or a no.
Okay.
It's more, I don't know if I've ever been prepared to take care of a human being.
Right. Well, you probably haven't. Neither have I, to be honest. Yeah. So, okay, last question.
That's more the answer.
What are your favorite things about me?
My favorite things about, I got to give you 3 of these every night.
Yeah. What do I ask you every single day, just about?
Yeah. What are your 3 favorite things about me?
Or why do you love me?
Yeah. Why do you love me?
And they have to be different.
3 reasons. Yeah. 3 different reasons. Go. your recovery is a big part of it. You work very hard. You don't just sit around and like you're always trying to better yourself. You're always trying to learn more about podcasting and social media and reading books and journals and getting people's opinion. Like you're always trying to better yourself. You are a good friend to people. I think it can be misinterpreted by some people in a certain way. I think circumstances with COVID and just life have kind of screwed things up a little bit. Yeah. But I think at your core, you're one of those friends that would be important to have for people because you'd like always be there and show up in a time of need, which is rare for people. You helped get Tank. You introduced me to pugs.
Skylar didn't really think pugs were real.
No, I thought it was an urban legend. I didn't think they were real.
He thought the only dogs were supposed to be like Goldies or Labs.
Yeah.
And then you agreed to get a pug because that's all I wanted.
Yeah.
And now what's your favorite kind of dog?
Pug. Tank.
Yeah.
And yeah, just your willingness to fight for our relationship, I think is a big, because I think it helps. It forces me to fight for my recovery and like my well-being because you fought for us. And if like that, it helps. It's like, it gives me more motivation to be like, fuck, like, look what she's done and sacrificed and given up. Like the least I can do is fucking try and do it.
It's not been a sacrifice to stay with you.
No, I know, but
I hear what you're saying.
Haven't been the easiest.
No,
when I use.
No, that was awful, obviously. But like, also, what I think is important to say is that like, because you are such a good man and you are so fucking dependable and show up for me in so many ways, outstanding ways. Like if our relationship had been rocky, or if you were kind of a dick, or if there were like these big pieces of our relationship that I wasn't happy with, I wouldn't have waited, you know. But like, I'm going to share one story and then we'll be done because we're already going to have to break this into two parts. Okay. Skylar and I had not been dating for very long, maybe 6 months. And I had this cameo ring that I loved. So important to me. It was an antique French cameo ring and the woman was facing left, which is really rare. And it went on this finger and it was really valuable. And I used to use it to bail out my ex from jail. That's how valuable it was. And then I would always go back and get it. And I don't know if he gave it to someone or someone stole it from us, but I was in a motel bathroom picking my face and it was on a table in the motel room with another ring that was really valuable to me. And they were both gone after these two tweakers had been hanging out at the house with him.
Yeah.
Gone. One of the things I've been like the most sad about forever. And I mentioned it to you maybe just in passing. Like I didn't even spend that much time on it because it'd been years. Like I didn't think about it that much. And I was about to teach a noon class at psychology and Skylar texted me, come outside. And I walked outside and you were like, hey, I got this for you. And you pulled out a little ring box and it was a left facing vintage cameo that was like the exact same one as the one that I had lost. And they're very rare and very hard to find. And like, that's the kind of stuff that you do all the time for me. Like think about something like that and then show up. And that's why I stayed and it was so worth it, you know, because that's who you really are, you know?
That's who I try to be.
Yeah. Well, I love you so much, honey.
I love you too.
You did such a good job.
I hope this went good.
It was great.
Are you going to use it?
Yeah. I'm going to use it. I'm going to break it into two parts. Okay. Of course I'm going to use it. This was amazing. But I'll be honest, I was a little worried. Okay. I was like, fuck, I don't know how much he's going to want to talk. Like, is it going to be really hard? And it wasn't at all. You were totally prepared to share your story. Yeah. Do you feel okay sharing everything that you shared?
Yeah. Totally fine.
Okay. Well, I love you so much, honey.
I love you too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.